You see a dog across the street. You don't know this dog. You've never met this dog. And yet, before you've even thought about it, your hand is already halfway raised. Your voice has gone up an octave, and somehow you're saying, "Who's a good boy?" to a complete stranger's Labrador. It's weird when you think about it. Humans don't usually walk up to strangers and immediately want physical contact. But put a fluffy animal in front of us, and suddenly all social rules disappear. We crouch, we smile, we baby talk, and most importantly, we reach out and touch. Why are humans so irresistibly drawn to petting animals? At first, the answer seems obvious. Animals are cute. Case closed. Except scientists have discovered that what's happening inside your brain is much more fascinating than that. Because your urge to pet a dog isn't just a personality trait, it's biology, and it may be one of the oldest instincts we have. Back in 1943, Austrian biologist Konrad Lorenz proposed something called the baby schema. He noticed that certain features seem to trigger caregiving instincts in humans. Big eyes, round faces, small noses, soft features, clumsy movements. Human babies have these traits, and according to Lorenz, evolution designed them that way. Babies that looked cute received more attention and care, and over millions of years, adult brains became wired to respond. But here's the fascinating part. Your brain doesn't really care whether those features belong to a human baby or not. Show it a puppy with enormous eyes, a kitten with tiny paws, or even a rabbit with a fluffy face, and the exact same nurturing systems begin to activate. Your brain isn't saying, "This is my child." It's simply responding to a set of visual cues that scream, "Protect this, love this, take care of this." Modern brain scans have confirmed that Lorenz was surprisingly correct. Looking at cute animals activates regions involved in emotion, reward, and motivation. In other words, seeing a puppy isn't just pleasant, it's a neurological event. Your brain is treating that little creature as something deeply important, and that's before you've even touched it. Because touching changes everything. Human touch is far more complicated than most people realize. Your skin contains specialized nerve fibers designed for different kinds of sensations. Some detect pressure, some detect temperature, some detect pain, but one particular system exists almost exclusively for gentle, affectionate touch. These fibers are activated by slow, soft stroking, not grabbing, not squeezing, not poking, gentle, rhythmic movements. The kind of touch people naturally use when holding a baby or hugging someone they love. And amazingly, soft fur stimulates these nerve fibers almost perfectly. Running your hand over a dog's back isn't just pleasant, your brain interprets it as something emotionally meaningful, something safe, something comforting, something social. And that activates powerful chemicals inside your body. One of those chemicals is oxytocin. People often call it the love hormone, though scientists prefer to think of it as a bonding hormone. Oxytocin is released when parents hold children, when couples hug, when friends share affection. And numerous studies have shown that petting a dog for just a few minutes significantly increases oxytocin levels in humans. But that's only half the story, because the dog experiences the same thing. While you're petting the dog, its oxytocin levels rise too. Both species are experiencing the same chemical processes that create trust and attachment. You and the dog are literally bonding. Think about that for a moment. A creature that evolved separately from us for millions of years now shares the same biological language of affection. No words, no contracts, just eye contact, touch, and chemistry. But why does fur feel so comforting? Why not rocks? Why not tree bark? Why don't we see a brick wall and think, "I need to pet that immediately"? The answer begins in infancy. Long before we understand language, we learn something important. Softness means safety. Warm blankets, warm skin, being held, being protected. Those associations become deeply embedded in our nervous systems. Even as adults, soft textures still communicate comfort. Warmth communicates life. And when your hand rests on a warm, living creature, your body responds almost instantly. Stress hormones begin to decrease, heart rate slows, muscles relax. Without thinking, your nervous system receives a message. You're safe. Something alive is here with you. And perhaps that's why petting animals feels so calming. Your body recognizes companionship before your conscious mind does. There's another strange aspect to all this. The urge itself. Because let's be honest, sometimes it feels almost impossible to resist. You know you're supposed to ask before petting someone's dog. You know the cat at your friend's house has already warned you twice, and yet your hand still moves. That's because your reward systems react before your conscious thoughts catch up. By the time you've thought, maybe I should pet that dog, your brain has already decided. You're simply becoming aware of the process that started seconds earlier. Which explains another strange phenomenon scientists call cute aggression. Have you ever looked at a puppy and said, I could just squeeze you? Of course, you don't actually want to hurt it, but the feeling is real. Researchers believe this strange reaction helps regulate overwhelming positive emotions. When something is unbelievably adorable, your brain creates a balancing response. It's basically your nervous system saying, okay, this amount of happiness is ridiculous. Let's calm down. Which means that weird urge to aggressively cuddle a kitten, oddly enough, it's a sign your brain is functioning normally. But perhaps the most extraordinary part of this story is that dogs have been shaping us too. Humans and dogs have lived together for somewhere between 15 and 40,000 years. That's enough time for both species to change each other. Dogs became experts at understanding humans. They read our expressions, they follow our gaze, they understand pointing gestures better than wolves. And over thousands of generations, dogs evolved something remarkable. A tiny facial muscle that helps create the famous puppy eyes. That look, the one that completely destroys your self-control. Scientists discovered that wolves either lack this muscle or possess a much weaker version. Dogs literally evolved facial expressions that trigger emotional responses in humans. In other words, they became experts at making us love them. And apparently, it worked. Because thousands of years later, we're still helpless. But maybe none of this is really about dogs, or cats, or rabbits. Maybe it's about something deeper. Touch, because touch is one of the oldest forms of communication mammals have. Long before language existed, touch communicated safety, comfort, trust, belonging. And modern life often leaves us surprisingly deprived of it, which might explain why animals have such powerful effects on us. Studies consistently show that interacting with pets lowers stress, reduces anxiety, improves mood, and even decreases levels of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. Hospitals use therapy dogs. Schools bring in emotional support animals. Recovery centers use animal-assisted therapy. And remarkably, measurable changes can occur in as little as 10 minutes. Your nervous system knows what it needs, and it responds quickly when it gets it. Maybe that's the real lesson. We like to laugh about our inability to resist petting dogs. We joke about being distracted by puppies on the sidewalk. But perhaps that impulse isn't silly at all. Perhaps it's something ancient, something deeply mammalian. Because for most of human history, we lived alongside animals. We slept near them, worked beside them, relied on them, shared warmth with them. Our ancestors spent thousands of generations surrounded by living creatures, and evolution doesn't forget that overnight. Deep inside your brain, your nervous system still expects warm, soft companions to be part of everyday life. Which is why no matter how busy you are, no matter how serious you try to be, no matter how many responsibilities you have, if a golden retriever walks up to you and wags its tail, you were never really going to ignore it. You were always going to pet the dog.